All right, welcome back, and look what just came in, a package from our friends at UrbanEDC Supply, one of my favorite websites that sells knives. Pulling that open with the good old, trusty old Demco 8020.5, my favorite package opening knife lately. And let's see what we've got here. Oh, cool. This is the, and I don't know exactly how this works, but it is the UrbanEDC Supply F5.5 in the blue denim micarta with the acid-etched M390 blade. So I believe what this is they contracted and like kind of co-designed this with Jesper Vonais. I don't know how that's pronounced. Vonais, probably something like that. And yeah, these things have been like selling out like crazy. So I was able to get in on this last batch. Interesting. This looks like it's been opened here, so I don't love that. But you can see that's sort of folded like it had been opened. So I don't know what the deal is on that. See how this looks when we get inside. Maybe when they come in, they do like a quick quality check or something at UrbanEDC. I don't know. But I think that's really cool. I gotta say that. I don't know if that's like an UrbanEDC thing or what. Congrats on your purchase. A little bit about their mission and blah, blah, blah. That's cool. I like that little graphic on there. That's kind of, I wouldn't say glued on, but it's not stitched in or anything like that. Nothing too fancy. I'd say that this is sort of in the quality, like this packaging is in the quality of what you get from like a Demco. So if you're familiar with like what you get on an 8020.5, this feels very similar. If there's anything else in here. I think that's all it comes with, is just the knife in there. So, that, I don't know if I've seen that before. This is actually like sealed in here. That's really interesting. It's much darker color than I expected. Would not call that the color as advertised. I don't know if there's like a right way to open this, but this feels like the best way to do it with the least amount of damage to the packaging. Ooh, that's a really nice feeling micarta. I'm not the biggest micarta fan. This one's very quality feeling. Like it feels like oiled or something. Gosh, how dark is that? I kind of wish I was opening this during the day so we could all get a little better look at it. That's kind of badass looking. It's kind of hard looking. And like the carve outs for the deployment there on the fuller, like the inset liner lock. It's an interesting size. That's hard back there too. That's that's like a big chunk of metal. It feels very quality, big jimping on it. And they do some kind of like interesting carve outs like around the hardware, around the pivot, not the pivot hardware rather, but the hardware back here. Let's see if I can get like a really good zoom on that. That's an interesting touch. So they kind of carve out the micarta around those. So the, you know, the edge of the micarta kind of shows through there. Interesting little style point. I do not know if I like that. I like the length of this, you know, not being too long, and I bet this goes over the pants really easily. Let's give it a quick check. But I don't like how pointy that is. That feels like something that you mistakenly scratch stuff in your house or your car or whatever. So anyways, let's see what this thing's all about. Strong on the detent. The detent reminds me a lot of, it's even stronger than this one. I don't know if that loosens up over time. There's a strong detent. That's interesting. I wonder if that's to, when this is out, if it's just a style thing that they cut that back. That looks like it's there for a thumb stud or something. Almost drop shet from the factory. Don't love, you know, right where you want your finger to go in my, based on my hand size, right where I want my finger to go to kind of grab onto this while I do my deployment, happens to go right through there because this is so short. If this was a little longer, this is going to be interesting. Let me see how this goes. Okay, now I'm getting it okay, but maybe I'm thinking about it more. Oh wow, that was really good actually. I was expecting that detent to be too strong. It's not at all. In fact, it's really easy. Wow, that's a pleasant surprise. That is a really nice action. Really nice action. This is a freaking cool knife. Don't love that. That is just not quite big enough on the forward choil. I'll show you what I mean by comparison. Here's the Devo Stout. Look at the size difference on the forward choil. Finger goes in here and it just invokes confidence. I got a nice little space there. If I choke up on that and it's not just like the tip of my finger like this, and it's like the meat of my finger, I'm like right on the cutting edge there. So what I'd probably do, it may be blasphemous, but I'd probably not knock that down, but like dole that out right there. Just the very tip of it. Just, I mean, it's really catching my skin there. But man, that is a cool looking knife. Let's put out some size comparisons on this one. That feels like a very appropriate thing to do. So go with my usuals, bug out, because this is UrbanEDC. When I hear UrbanEDC, I'm thinking we're gonna make you the coolest hipster in town. So let's talk about knives that you would really carry. This is a very similar size. I'll be this much taller. The Bug Out Mini, whoops, I don't miss that one much. That was funny. Is about the same blade length. So this is a bigger blade length, but about the same handle length. And this is a little shorter on the handle. It's so funny. This knife feels so much bigger than the Bug Out Mini, but it's actually a very similar size. This is one of the weirdest, the most unique feeling knives. Like I really feel the gap here in the micarta, which is kind of unexpected. I expected it to be a little softer on the hand, honestly. It feels very, I gotta think about that for a second, how I'm gonna explain that. But it's not smooth. It's a little gappy there. It's a really big gap by comparison. I'd say it's almost twice as big of a gap. Like at least 1.5 times, we'll say, as big of a gap. You can really feel it. Particularly on this little edge right here. I think this is a little too sharp. This should be rounded off a little more from my perspective. It's good, but it's not great. That's the best way I can put it. I don't know, maybe the hot spots. Yeah, no, it's almost like this is too tall here. Like it should narrow down more. It's kind of what makes the knife look cool and robust. But if it narrowed down a little more, I don't think when I clamp down, I'd feel this edge going into my pinky as much as I do, but I feel it right there. So that's interesting. Let's get out some other knives. Sorry about the very slow comparison here. Para 3 from Spyderco. Very similar knives in a lot of ways, just in terms of like being really high and long. The Spyderco has a much longer handle. Let's put these handle to handle here. Let's do it this way, sorry. Let's get Mr. Bug out of here. And you can see this is significantly longer here and much slicier on the blade, I'd say. This is a much thicker blade, but very similar like total height. Man, this acid etched is pretty. It's like a tumbled acid etched or something like that. What is this? Maybe that's just what acid etched looks like, but it's a flat grind. I think it's a flat grind too. It's like a very long flat grind. Just starts like right here. If I'm seeing it right. I have like terrible lighting right now for some reason. It's a flat grind. That looks really cool though. Let me get a close up on this knife if I can. There we go. That is just a cool looking blade. And the Micarta is cool. This is a cool looking knife. This is like what the guy with the beard shows up at your party carrying. And you're like, dude, where did you get that? And he's like, don't worry about it, bro. I live in an apartment. And I drink microbrew. And I drink microbrew. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, that's that guy. He's got this knife. And you learn about it from him. The yeah, can be done with the thumb too. Quite well, actually. It's a little smaller, like I prefer slightly the size of the one on the Devo Stout for the thumb flick action. I just feel like I can get a slightly better purchase. This one's a little tiny for the thumb, but it's clearly made for reverse flick, spidey flick, and it is so good. I like literally just gave this my knife of the year for this spidey flick, and I gotta say, like, as cool as this is, there's something a little like, what's the right term? When this opens, it's a very singular sound or feel. Like it goes click, and that's it. When this opens, I kind of feel it like resonate. Oops. I kind of feel it like resonate through the knife. And it kind of, there's like a little, and there's something satisfying about it, but it's a little, I don't know if the right term is unsettling, but it's a little like, it feels like, not that you're going to damage it, but like that it's like a lot going on. This thing's a little smoother in its action. They're very similar knives in a lot of ways. So let's compare size-wise against the Devo Stout and against Demco 80-20.5. These are very similar in a lot of ways in terms of like shark's foot, sheep's foot, size, height, deployment and action. Three of the best deploying knives that I felt. These are the three best reverse flick knives that I have, I think. Like I can't think of one that's better for reverse flick. Maybe you could say the Spyderco, but I actually am less confident in the Spyderco even than any of these three knives. From like especially using a fuller, these three are just really good. Gosh, the action on that is really nice. What kind of lockup do we have here? Really cool M390 there. It's a pretty minimal lockup, 20% maybe. I wonder if that'll work its way over. Interesting, you can see the little ball on there for the me get the zoom right here. It's a cool knife. It's not, I'd say the biggest weakness is just feel in hand. And there's some things about it, feel in hand wise, that are really good. So don't get me wrong, like this position feels phenomenal. Like it's maybe even better than the Demco, except that that swoops up a bit more at the end than I would like it to. But I bet this would be like a really good utility cut knife in general. So this feels really good. This feels pretty damn good, except for that little potential bite there is like a little sketchy, but the size, this feels really, really nice on that grip, really nice. The only place I don't like it is a full grip. I get like a lot of a hot spot right here. I might be able to knock that down or something. I'm looking at the liners in there. And the micarta stands pretty tall over the liner. So I bet it would be pretty easy to like knock that edge down there a few millimeters to try and reduce that hot spot. It's also like kind of a pointy, so I don't know if it's that point that's getting me, maybe that little point there. So you could almost just round it off and maybe that would handle it. Maybe that's what I'm feeling, is that little point there where that comes to like a slight point. That's, I think, what I'm feeling on the hot spot. Really cool knife in a lot of elements. And then just like a couple small shortcomings for me. Let's see if it's worked its drop sheddiness. This feels like maybe if I loosened it like a touch, it might just be like super drop shut. And then like the pocket clip, not the best for the reverse flick. You may not need the pocket clip though, based on the feel of it. Yeah, you can literally, this thing is just so good on the reverse flick. You can have these two fingers on it, no problem. You have your other fingers out and deploy it like, maybe I'm wrong. Feels like you could do that very easily. That's not the way that I do it, so I kind of suck at it, but let me come around the camera and actually look at what I'm doing. Maybe I can do it a little better. Yeah, that is a sweetie. They make this in a lot of versions too. I'm getting like one kind of oddity. When you push this in, if you push this in at the top, you kind of get a little bite between the lock and the frame. It's probably just because that's not where you're supposed to be pushing it, but it's an FYI. Let's see how the centering is on this. Looks pretty dead center to me. Let me just take a look with my bare eyes. Yeah, looks pretty perfectly centered. Yeah, it's perfectly centered. I think you can see it better this way, actually. There you go. If not, it's damn close. Now I really want to see if I can do that, but it's fine. Let's do it the normal way. How about the wheel open? That detent's a little strong when you wheel it open. It's fine, but it is like there's a little pop coming out there. So it doesn't just like slide out like the Wii Vision R. I just reviewed that one today. I bet it would actually get a little easier over time though, based on what I'm feeling here. Sweet. That's a cool knife. That is just a cool knife. A knife even your hipster friends could love. You know, it's a liner lock knife for over $200, which liner lock micarta knife for over $200, but you're getting an M390 blade steel. What was the price on this thing? They are $239, I think, MSRP on the website. You know, UrbanEDC runs some good sales here and there, so watch out for those, and maybe you could get them for a couple bucks less if you get them while they're in stock. I think it's getting a little drop sheddy now, actually. That's pretty close to drop shetty. You kind of have to have it in the right spot, but it's pretty darn close. It's not quite, but yeah, you get a good blade steel. There's a lot of blade there. You know, this feels strong. It's got phenomenal lockup, great action right off the bat. They're doing some really cool things with style. They have these in all sorts of different, or they've delivered them in all sorts of different styles, from like a brushed brass to a polished brass to a, you know, different blade looks, damascene steel. I've seen they've done a whole bunch of different versions of this. And, you know, I feel like they're really tapping into a style that's going to appeal to like a particular subset of people. And I can totally see why. It's a cool knife for sure. I'm gonna have to put some thought into scoring this one, and I gotta try putting it in the pocket and see what this clip's all about. It feels like it's gonna go over the pants well. I mean, it's super ramped, so it's probably a pretty damn good pocket clip if I were to guess, but man, that thing sticks out a lot compared to, you know, compare that. That's a huge difference in how far that sticks out. So then here's like my kind of go-to upgraded pocket clip. So yeah, that'll be interesting, but it is a really cool knife. It's unique, a lot to like there for sure. It feels size-wise, it reminds me just a lot of the Wee Banter. Just the tallness, it's obviously longer here. And that kind of goes to speak to like what they've done inefficiently, because this, I feel like much more comfortable with a full grip. The Wee Banter is a knife where you're choked up all the time, is the best way I can explain it. What they did here, this is the biggest two weaknesses I feel like on the knife are like this section and this section. When it comes to gripping, there's just not quite right. It's really good for this grip. It is like your finger falls right into here naturally, or into here. Like, it's really good for that grip. It's okay for this one, but you get the hot spot on the finger for me. This one's sketchy because of how small that forward choil is. But maybe that's a quick fix there or something by dulling that out. Man, it's really close to being like a really good all-around knife. But yeah, they do that in like a carbon fiber. They've done a titanium, I think. Different prices, like you'll see them ranging from like $239 like this to $500 or something like that. $499 for the Damascene steel tie or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was exactly. I think it was a Damascene steel tie version. But I think they're doing something really cool here. I am missing the reverse flick like randomly. It's just a little hard to get the grip because of this sort of slipping through here. Like, that's the finger I depend on for my reverse flick. You know, I go to do it and like I depend on this catching, this finger in particular, catching the pocket clip. And this one feels really good. It's part of why I rated this so good. It's the best reverse flick in terms of like, you know, it's gonna go every time for a fuller based, not a thumb stud based that I've felt. And all this action is in some ways more appealing than the Devo Stout. The purchase that you get when you're gripping it leaves something to be desired. Same thing with the Demco. This isn't a factory one. Let me grab one with a factory pocket clip. This is a factory pocket clip. I go to use a fuller reverse click, and I'm getting exactly where I want to be on the pocket clip. Like, you can see how big of a difference that is in terms of like, now this is not a deep carry. This is close to a deep carry, is about as close as it gets. You know, it could be a little deeper technically, but you go to do your reverse flick. Close this up. And it puts you in almost the exact wrong position. You can stretch out a little more and get to that, and then you have a pretty good action. But this, you like kind of can't go wrong with the Demco. There's so much room in which you're getting the correct purchase that you just don't even have to think about it. So I'll put some thought into this one. Okay, let me check and see what the weight is. That's one thing I have not done here. That'd be interesting. Let's weigh this group here. Lightest 2.86 ounces on the Lee Banter, 3.5-ish, 3.52 on the Demco Grivery. This might actually be lighter than the Demco. Yeah, 3.24 on the Micarta F5.5. And then 4 flat on the Devo Stout. So pretty good on the weight. I like that, just being like just a little over 3 ounces. It feels, you feel like that quality. You're getting an M390 blade steel, which not enough a lot of manufacturers have gone to 20 CV or whatever. A lot of people really think M390, they're probably generally the same, but there's something a little higher quality about the original, as opposed to the other manufacturer doing a similar thing. So some people prefer that. There's also just, I think, now more of a rarity in the M390. There's actually technically probably more knives out there in M390 than 20 CV, but like new knives are oftentimes going to 20 CV due to cost and availability, I think, is what's driving that from what I've read. So super interesting knife here. Very, very interesting. This one's, I feel like this is one of the ones I'm gonna have to put a little more thought into. It's not quite as obvious. I feel like I over-rotated on this Devo Stout a little. Like I came out right away and said second best knife of the year behind the 80-20.5. And I think it is in a lot of ways, but like the more I spend time with it, the more I kind of feel that it's made in China and by QSP. Best way I can put it. It's like very heavy materials, and the initial impression is, wow, this is impressive. It's a 4-ounce knife. It flies out of there like that. Like there's so much good about it. Don't get me wrong. And the guys that designed it this way for a reason. Love the way that your hand fits into the groove and stuff. Like there's so much good about it, but for 300 MSRP for this particular one, and I think it's like 270 for the Micarta, I feel like that would be a phenomenal, like this would be one of the hardest knives to compete with at like 175, 199, 150 if they could pull it off. This would just be unbelievable. And maybe they'll do some other blade steels instead of, I think this is 20 CV, and get the price down on it. That would actually be a really cool thing for them to do. Maybe they come out with a, would be an interesting blade steel for this. I don't know if they go D2 or OS 8 or VG10. I don't know, something along those lines. And this could be a really interesting competitor, but at the price that it's at, that was like the thing. I've been sitting there thinking about that for the week since I have like kind of announced this is my second best knife of the year, and I'm like, but the price. And granted, this is the carbon with the aluminum infused and everything, but this one at the lower price, very competitive to it. That was interesting. There's like a slightly pokey edge here when you're dropping this down. That to me is a flaw as well here. So you can see that kind of pokes through there. And that can get your finger. See that? I don't know if other knives have that. Let's take a look. I mean, the Demco really has it, but it's like very soft there, very knocked down. Devo Stout, not at all. We Banter, just right into blade kind of in that case, but it's kind of a surprising feel when it hits your finger. It's like very pinchy and sharp there. So I would prefer they, I mean, that would not be hard. You would have to do very little work to not let that into the path there and hit your finger. That would, you're not taking off a lot of metal. You're taking off like that chunk right there. Just that tip there, and then that wouldn't happen. I think that's a little bit of an oversight. It's not a big one, but a little one. So yeah, good all-around knife. There's some elements of this that I like more than the Devo Stout, which I think is its like very close competitor. And then some elements that I think, that could be improved. So overall, definitely a recommendable knife. And I'm going to think about how recommendable. I'm going to try and learn from what happened with that one and try and be a little more thoughtful about how fast I declare something. This is still one of my favorite knives, but little things that I've been noticing about it since I got to spend more time with it, where it feels very good still, but a couple little things could make this thing really feel higher quality, the next level of quality. And I have the stonewash version coming. Part of it to me is actually just that little logo, and I think it comes with a replacement for that in all black. I gotta understand what that pivot is that knife came with. It comes with like some extra pivot hardware, but I think maybe even just meeting out that DK would be like a nice little style point. And there's a couple little extra touch points around here that I'm mulling over still. Let's leave it at that. So F5.5, really good knife. A lot to like, pretty good value, I'd say, and I'll put together some thoughts on the pocket score when I put out this video and do my best to give you a really strong understanding of how I'd rate everything on a 0 to 10 on those 10 elements that I look at. So thanks for stopping by. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.